Puerto Rico has begun to slowly roll out plans to reopen the economy on the island. That's about 2 months after implementing some of the strictest lockdown restrictions in the U.S. So Danica Coto has been living through the lockdown on the island, and she joins us now to talk more about that. She's also an Associated Press correspondent. Danica, thank you so much for joining us. Give us a sense of what this reopening will look like. Is it slow, and is it realistic?
It's slow, and if you ask some people, it remains to be seen whether it's realistic. You can sort of hear the rumble of dump trucks and bulldozers going today. Construction and manufacturing sectors reopened today, about a week after doctors' offices, notaries, laundromats opened. So far, there hasn't been a peak in cases yet in terms of anything related to the slow reopening that began last week. But experts say it's still too early to tell. There's not enough testing to be done. Last week, they said they've tested about 60,000 people on an island of 3.2 million. And there's more reopening scheduled starting next week, including barbershops and hair salons. But the lockdown remains largely in place for non-essential workers until May 28th. Parks and beaches remain closed, and at least people now can exercise from 5 a.m. to 3 p.m.
So last week, as you know, residents led a caravan through San Juan protesting the government's response to the pandemic. Explain to our viewers why residents are so upset.
Sure. Well, there's several reasons. There's about hundreds of people who joined the caravan on May 1st, the day of the worker, but their demands were different. Some wanted more personal protective equipment, especially healthcare workers. Others wanted the government to address a food crisis. As you know, school cafeterias have remained closed. Since the lockdown, they've slowly been reopening, but they're serving one meal instead of two a day. Other people also are still denouncing corruption. There's been an investigation into the failed purchase of testing kits. So there's a variety of reasons. And one of the highlights, as most of people on the island shared on social media, there was a woman who went up to the police barriers and she placed 5 pig heads on the barriers and slowly walked away without saying anything. So there's still a lot of anger. The event known as the cacerolazos, where people bang on pots and pans at 8 p.m. at night, those have decreased greatly. You can still hear them occasionally, but not, as strong as a couple of weeks ago.
So meanwhile, Puerto Rico, as many people will have heard, was hit by an earthquake just really days ago. And this is after, the island is still recovering from several earthquakes from earlier on this year. There's supposed to be funding coming from the government to help with these emergencies, but to also help with a COVID-19 recovery. What do we know about the stimulus package? Has the money arrived?
Some of the money has arrived. About 2 weeks ago, the local government, sent an email to about 500,000 people on the island saying you qualify for the $1,200 federal incentive. Some of the people have received that money, others haven't. The government has not yet said overall how many have received it. In addition, there's $2.2 billion in aid. And a federal control board that oversees the island's finances has recommended that be used to increment testing, to address as well education, housing issues, unemployment, the purchase of more personal protective equipment. And as you mentioned, the earthquake, was just another thing that Puerto Rico did not need at this point. The island is still trying to recover from Hurricane Maria. And the 5.4 earthquake that struck south of the island, it also caused some damage. It's unclear how much yet, but it did displace more than 50 families who are now, not only were some of them unemployed, but they're now living in hotels. So, it's made life harder for dozens of people as well.
It's just terrible to know our fellow citizens are suffering in this way. Danica, you've also been following the food crisis happening on the island. Break that down for us.
Sure. Well, the school cafeterias, as I mentioned, they remained closed since March 5th or March 12th, actually, when the lockdown was announced shortly afterward. And there was a lot of protests. Teachers began using their own money to buy food for their children, for their students. And people were demanding, that the school cafeterias do something about it. The Department of Education did donate raw food to the local food bank and nonprofit organizations, but this food was quickly spent. There's more need for it. And now they've reopened about several dozen school cafeterias. They're distributing food But again, it's 1 meal a day instead of the 2 meals that children used to receive. And this is on an island where 70% of children in the public school system are poor. Overall, the island has an unemployment rate of 43%. That's higher than any U.S. state. And in addition, economists say that they expect the unemployment rate to go up by more than 30%. And they warn that more than 370,000 jobs are in danger. So a lot of them, are families who have children in schools who cannot afford to provide meals for their children. And they largely depend, on nonprofit organizations and on teachers who are distributing bread and milk, ham, cheese. The Department of Education says it's still working to reopen more cafeterias. There's been a bit of a setback. Some cafeteria workers have tested positive for the coronavirus. And there's still families that say they're not being reached, especially in rural areas.
And then in the middle of all of this, 2 more trans women were murdered about a month ago. That brings the total number of trans women murdered to 4 this year alone. Are there any updates in regards to the investigations into these murders?
Well, the suspects are in federal prison right now. Not only are they facing charges for the killings of the 2 women, but they're also facing carjacking charges. And police have said that one of the suspects have told them, that they got together with the women, and that after finding out they were, on a double date at one of the homes of one of the women, and after finding out that they were transgender women, the other suspect said, we need to kill them. And so that was the motive that police say led to, the women being shot, and subsequently the bodies, were found burned in the car in the eastern town of Humacao.
It is just so horrific. I hope that their families and loved ones see some justice done in these horrific murders. Danica Coto, I feel like we've talked a lot about some of the really difficult times that our fellow citizens are going through in Puerto Rico, but it's also important to point out that it's a wonderful place to visit, and hopefully, people from the mainland will be able to return very quickly to enjoy all that is wonderful about the island, from the food to the beaches to the warm embrace of the people. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Indeed. Thank you for having me.